The tension is palpable even before we enter Kibbutz Be'eri, the site of one of the worst imaginable massacres by the Hamas. There are plumes of smoke coloring the blue sky. And the eerie silence is broken by the sound of bombs and rockets.
You can see the plumes of smoke right behind me. This is quite literally the front line of the war. Israel's retaliation against the Hamas. Israeli troops and tanks now lining up at the very edge of Gaza, preparing for the final assault. Since we've been standing here, and there are lots of people around, let me just turn this camera around. The people around are mostly press people waiting to gain access to the front line. And since we've been standing here, we've heard multiple explosions, the sound of multiple explosions going off. At first, we thought perhaps it's the infantry training, because remember, soldiers have been telling us that they've been training now for the last many days to prepare to make that final incursion. But we're now being told that this is an actual sort of operation that is undergoing, an exchange of fire between the Hamas in Gaza and the Israeli forces. Here, you can see behind me, those are military trucks. And even in the distance, if I just and give you a sense of where we're standing, this is quite literally the front line of the war. We're very, very close to the edge of Gaza, where war clouds are looming, literally and metaphorically, with plumes of smoke from explosions and bombs filling the air as tanks and gunners line up all along the edge of Gaza, awaiting orders for a final incursion into the Gaza Strip.
We are warned. This is a danger zone.
I am the only person that you can speak to. We are in a dangerous area. That means a few things. There could be a siren, what we call in Hebrew Tzeva Adom, a red color. We need to, all of you then, if you're close to a shelter box, you go into it. If not, you put your helmet, you lie on the ground, hands over your head. This could be happening. There's still a lot of ammunition all over. Do not touch anything. It could be explosive. Again, I'm saying this. There's still a lot of ammunition around. Do not touch and pick up anything.
The officer is not saying this lightly. Just a few meters ahead, we see the telltale signs of carnage and mass murder. Bullets, cartridges, military helmets, the weapons and ammunition used by Hamas as they went from home to home shooting men, women, and children. This is Kibbutz Be'eri, a residential conclave where 10% of the people, maybe more, have been killed by Hamas and countless others have been taken hostage. It is now the very front line of Israel's war on Gaza. One mile from the Gaza Strip and we find ourselves jumping every few minutes at the sound of an incoming rocket or the mortar fire that the Israelis are returning. These are the sights and sounds of an impending war offensive, and they are everywhere. We are walking right now into Be'eri, which is one of the massacre sites that was most badly hit by the Hamas terror attack. You can see the sand climbing literally into our eyes. We're quite literally at the front line of this war, very close to Gaza. And the Israeli military has just told us that 10% of the civilians in this community were killed. Explosions are also the accompanying soundtrack to our conversation with the Israeli military. Officer, we've been hearing since we got here with you multiple explosions. Can you explain, are these strikes from Gaza? Are these Israeli strikes on Gaza?
They're both.
Okay.
So Hamas has been continuously shooting and firing rockets from the Gaza Strip on Israeli civilians. We're now in over 6,000 rockets and mortars that have been shot from Gaza into Israel. Let me correct that, 6,000 rockets, including hundreds of more of mortars That's what we're hearing here. They're still continuously attacking Israel.
There is reports that another front is opening on the north as well as the south. Israel military has said it has struck Hezbollah targets. Are you concerned about a two-front conflict? And there was another sound of an explosion. The officer seems absolutely unbothered. We are trying to put up a brave face. Go ahead, sir.
We should all be bothered. War is not something that we as humans in our values want. But sadly, we're in this situation because of their barbaric acts. To your question,
Yes.
Israel is prepared for all fronts, and we will not tolerate any kind of poking or trying us out. For the defense of Israel, we will do everything.
Inside, the full horror of the 7th October Hamas attack unfolds bit by bit, image by image. Too horrifying to contemplate even today.
You just heard the sound of another very, very loud explosion. We've been trying to make sense of whether these are the Israelis hitting at the Gaza area or the reverse, and the officers here have told us that it's both. I have to say, even as somebody who's covered any number of wars, the sound of that explosion does make you jump, as calm as we're all trying to remain here as we enter the Be'eri Kibbutz, an area where we are being told that 10% of the civilian population has been massacred by Hamas.
Houses were set on fire, and so people, entire families, were burnt alive. The most poignant images are the charred remains of what was once an ordinary life, an ordinary day. A shopping cart, a kettle, a sewing machine, a child's swing.
This is the site of the Be'eri massacre, which we know from the headlines is one of the worst massacre sites in the Hamas terror attack on Israel. Now, we have heard from the forensic scientists of how houses were actually set on fire so that many, many people were actually burnt alive, women and children included. At least 10% of the civilian community here has been killed. And you can see the destruction everywhere. If I ask the camera to move in there into what was obviously once a room, you can see nothing but just absolute devastation everywhere. And it's quite evident from looking at these images that entire establishments were set on fire. This is something that has been confirmed to us by the scientists of Israel's National Forensic Laboratory as well, that they said that they found many, many bodies in a charred condition. And also they found that in some cases, adults and children had been tied together and shot from the back. I'm going to keep walking out here and ask my camera to follow behind me. Look at this. You can see ordinary things that make up home life. This is the remains of the day. Little remains everywhere. That I see there looks like a sewing machine. If the camera can just move here, it looks like a sewing machine. So you can see in the devastation and the damage to ordinary household items what actually has taken place here. 10% of the civilian population absolutely not able to protect themselves. And since we've been here, I've actually lost count of the number of explosions that we heard. We tried to report each one of them, and then it just got too many to count. I think I must have counted, about 20? And it just gives you a sense of how close you are to the Gaza border and how close we are to the actual war offensive.
The world has seen this viral video, among others, of Hamas entering Israel literally on a killing spree. Here, amid the stench of death and bodies, you can join the dots between what we saw and what actually happened.
We have all seen the horrific Hamas video in which you see a terrorist entering Israel on a motorcycle, waving his weapons to the air. It's not very clear if a motorcycle like this was used by Hamas terrorists to enter this Kibbutz Be'eri, as we've been saying, the site of one of the worst massacres. But if you move up ahead, and I'm going to ask the camera to just slow down, then you see here the ammunition. We have been warned by the Israeli military to not touch any of this, but you can see any number of bullets here. And we have been told that some of this ammunition may still be live, and these are quite literally the remains of the day, the ammunition from the guns, the automatic weapons that the Hamas came in with in an operation, a terror attack that has been described by experts as a military-grade invasion. And if you look here, you can also see another motorcycle overturned. But I want to take you back to images like this of vehicles that have been just gutted and destroyed. And if you go back to those bullets there, can we go back to those bullets there? You can see this particular vehicle, and you can see the bullet holes in it. Clearly, whatever or whoever was in this car, the family that was in this car, must not have made it out alive, and it gives you a chill down your spine to think of that. These bullets, this ammunition, we're being told, could still be live. There could still be grenades at this complex. So we're being told not to touch anything.
אני מיישם, בת 21 משוהם, כרגע אני נמצאת בעזה.
Hamas has released 2 American hostages, but nearly 200 others are still in custody. Protesting families of these hostages point out that the youngest hostage is only a few months old. Even here at Kibbutz Be'eri, it's what happened to little children, babies even, that is the most difficult to process. What might have toddlers, for instance, playing at this kindergarten playground gone through?
Hamas killed over 1,300 Israelis, with over 4,000 injured. But sadly, they also took 199 hostages that we know of at this moment, and maybe more. This behavior, as you can see right here, this is a kindergarten. That was
this is really heartbreaking.
These are homes. They came, again, with one goal only: to kill and kidnap. And Israel will do everything that we can in order to restore the peace here and to bring back those that have been abducted.
And when you saw those videos of them claiming we're treating the hostages very well, as a soldier, what did you think?
I think that we cannot play into the hands of Hamas with their psychological warfare, claiming that they're being humanitarian when obviously, if they were, they would not come here and attack a kindergarten. They would not come here and murder children. They would not abduct these people. And we cannot allow them to even come close to being seen as if they are humane, because what they did here is the opposite of that.
Doctors have now confirmed that some bodies, including those of babies and toddlers, were found with their heads severed. The reason for this is still being examined.
We don't know exactly what happened there. We saw some bodies without head, and if we have to be honest, we have to finish our forensic examination in order to understand what happened there. I saw some cases of little kids without head. In my understanding, I think that something like that happened.
The terrorists did not even spare the local medical clinic. The wounded came here, officials say, thinking they might be spared, but that was not to be.
This particular site at the Be'eri kibbutz is particularly poignant. We're being told by the Israeli military officials that what you see behind me is actually a neighborhood medical facility. And many of the wounded were brought here in the belief that perhaps the terrorists would at least spare this particular facility. But in the end, the terrorists spared no one. They were able to charge in, go inside, and overwhelm the number of wounded inside. You can still see the ammunition and cartridges from weapons that are still lying here, a local neighborhood medical facility. And also the tragedy of this massacre site doesn't end with the fact that more than 10% civilians were actually killed. And you can see that tragedy in everyday items like cars that have been burned, cycles that were maybe ridden by a young child. The tragedy doesn't end here. The tragedy is also that there are hostages that have been taken. No one will say specifically how many from this particular neighborhood, but they do confirm that among the hostages still in Hamas captivity. There were hostages taken from here as well. And the Hamas, of course, has begun to release videos of those hostages, even as Israel says it will not negotiate with the Hamas, and countries like Qatar are urging the Hamas to release those hostages.
The roar of the jets is now getting louder, as is the rumble of the tanks. We are told we must leave soon. It is not safe to spend more time here. And so out we walk past armored vehicles and through mountains of sand, the tanks creating a near dust storm, only to find that the outside is no safer than the inside.
These are the rockets that have come in from the Gaza Strip just moments ago, even while we were inside the Kibbutz Be'eri, and we heard, I don't know, so many explosions, more than 20. And here our guide Eli is showing us another part of a rocket that has fallen. What are we seeing here?
This is part of the rocket that they're running to destroy the cars that they're parking here in the party.
Yeah.
And also this one. This is from this last week.
And we're just about a mile from the Gaza Strip, right?
Yeah, Gaza Strip, when you've been with
that side, yeah. But we're very close, and they've been targeting, as you can see, from the rockets that have been falling here. And you just heard an explosion. Even as I'm standing here, you can hear the explosions. And these are rockets. Look up.
Boom.
And there, you can see that. You can see the rocket there, right there in the sky, the trail of smoke. If the camera turns around here, let me show you where we are. We are just outside the Kibbutz Be'eri, and we just heard
the Iron Dome.
Explosions go off, and the Iron Dome.
The Iron Dome. Another one over there.
The Iron Dome is intercepting the rockets that are coming from Gaza.
The rocket coming from Gaza. Another one, bam.
There, I can see that right in the sky. So we've been talking about these explosions while we've been here at the Kibbutz Be'eri. And if the camera comes down, again, I'm going to tell you that we're standing at one of the worst massacre sites. And if the camera pans up to the sky, you can now hear the Iron Dome. You can see those little plumes of smoke in the sky, intercepting the rockets everywhere. And here, let me show you through the sound of explosions. Can the camera please follow me here? You can see parts of the rocket that have fallen right where we were standing. And once again, let the camera move up. Eli, we're seeing the sky filled with these white plumes. Tell us what we're seeing. You counting?
Everything is going 1, 2, 3, and 4.
Yeah.
That they attack the missiles that you have one like that downstairs here.
Yeah.
Okay, this is the good jobs of the Iron Dome.
Yeah, the good job of the Iron Dome, Israel's famed Iron Dome, intercepting those rockets from Gaza, but some have fallen here. Let me leave you with this image to give you a sense of how close we are to the war front. Just about a mile, the officer said, from the Gaza Strip, and the explosions literally every few minutes, signaling the beginning of a war offensive.